You hear something, feel something, but then you wonder, well, was that spirit or was that just my imagination? Let's finally clear that up because when you know the difference, everything changes. So, coming up in today's episode, you're going to learn a couple of things. You're going to learn what spirit communication really kind of feels like so that you can stop second guessing yourself. You're going to learn how to tell the difference between your ego, your imagination, and real spirit communication, and whether you're actually just imagining it or maybe receiving something real, perhaps. So that by the end, you're going to feel more grounded, more guided, and you're going to finally be able to trust what you've been receiving. Hey there. And welcome to the Spirits Beside Us podcast, where you're going to learn real ways to connect with the other side without fear, without doubt, and without doing it alone. I'm your host, Chris Lippincott, best-selling author, international medium, and spiritual teacher. I help spiritual seekers, just like you, learn how to hear from spirit guides, learn how to communicate with guides and loved ones in spirit in the afterlife so that you can gain healing and comfort and ultimately feel guided and grounded and really truly at peace. So let's dive into today's episode. Because if you've ever wondered, am I just making this all up? Well, then this episode is going to give you that clarity, the confidence, and the comfort that you've actually been craving for so long. Now, if you've ever thought, well, I'm just kind of probably making this all up, I'm just imagining this, right? You're not alone. It happens to everybody. Perhaps it's one of the most common fears that I hear from spiritual seekers. And honestly, that doubt is usually a sign that you're actually far more connected than you realize. But you see, here's the real issue. It's not that spirit isn't speaking to you. It's that your mind is packed too tight to really notice what's going on. Think of it like this. You're trying to hear spirit when your thoughts are kind of spinning. It's like trying to pack for a trip when you've got 10 oversized suitcases, right? You're juggling, you're overthinking, you're shoving things into bags that the bags aren't going to zip. And the whole time you're wondering, well, did I pack everything? Do I have everything that I need? What am I forgetting? And, your mind's just kind of going in all directions. What if I'm getting everything wrong? There's really no room for peace at that point. There's no space for presence, and there's certainly no chance to feel spirit's gentle whispers. Or imagine this. You're looking through a window, but it's covered in fog, right? The outline of something is there, but it's blurred and you can't really tell what it is. You can't really make it out. Now that fog, that's very much like your ego mind. Your fear, your doubt, your overthinking. It clouds the view of what you're looking at. But as soon as fog lifts, everything just feels a little clearer. That image becomes more clear, and that's what spirit kind of feels like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, just suddenly clear in a nice, quiet way. And when you start noticing that clarity, you're going to realize that spirit's been showing up for you all along. So now let's walk through the 15 most powerful ways to tell when it's really spirit and not just your imagination. First off, let's say, for example, you're standing in your kitchen. No music, no open window, no reason to react. And then suddenly it hits you, that sudden wave of maybe goosebumps or that tingling on your side, right? Almost like an invisible breeze that ran across your arms or maybe your neck or something. But there's no breeze, no sound. It's just a feeling. It's kind of like the champagne-like bubbles under the skin. Or maybe it's a very subtle energy rolling across your back, your arms, your scalp. It's not frightening. It's just present. You feel different. Kind of electronic or electric. And it's in your heart. Something whispers, that meant something. This is actually one of spirit's most common first touches. When your mind is calm or distracted, your body becomes the receiver. It's clairsentience. Spirit's presence moves through your energetic field and your nervous system responds before your brain has even had time to second guess what's going on. You're not imagining it, you're feeling it. Imagination is mental. Spirit is energetic. Imagination doesn't give you the chills. Ever thought of that? It doesn't change your breathing. It doesn't make the hair on your arms stand up, but spirit can. And it does. I felt this for years before I ever even realized what was going on. Say, for example, I'd be walking alone, maybe I was typing, reading, or something. I'd be getting waves of tingles across my arms, maybe my scalp, for no reason. First, I just kind of wrote it off. But later, when I started doing readings, I noticed every single time spirit entered, the same sensation returned. And it was always right before a message came. It was also during meditations. So if you've ever felt that electronic ripple or the electric zap on your skin, don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. That may have actually been the spirit's way of saying, hey, I'm here, pay attention. See, when I was first learning how to connect with spirit, I had a mentor, someone who I really respected, who looked me dead in the eye one day and he said, stop trying. I blinked. I'm like, what do you mean? What does that mean? Right? And he just said, the more you try and the more you try to connect, the more your mind gets in the way. Spirit doesn't need your effort. It actually needs you to be open. And I'll be honest, that totally confused me at first because I really wanted to connect. I wanted to put in the effort. I cared. And I was willing to give it my all. But what I learned was that trying is actually a mental task. It pulls you into an active mind, analyzing, calculating, reaching. And that's totally the opposite of how spirit comes through. Spirit doesn't arrive when you're pushing. It shows up when you surrender. When your mind softens, your heart opens up. And suddenly the message is just there, out of nowhere. But somehow it's exactly right. And it's like that moment kind of when you're a kid, right? You're staring out the window in school. Maybe it's the week before summer break. And you're daydreaming. You're totally outside. You're gone. You're looking at the grass or the playground or something. Your body might be in the classroom, but your mind's floating outside. Imagining the warm grass, maybe the breeze, the swing set that's waiting for you. That altered state, that's the doorway. That's where spirit steps in. That's what an altered state's really like. Because your thinking mind has finally quieted down so it can receive. Imagination takes effort. You construct it. You decide what happens next. It's like building a sandcastle. But spirit just places something in your hand, like a seashell in the tide, soft, spontaneous. So looking back now, I totally understand what my mentor meant. Trying is effort, and the effort is noise, but spirit comes through the quiet, not because you're working harder, but because you let go, you released, you surrendered. You don't have to try to hear a spirit. All you have to do is quiet down, let go, and notice when it speaks. All right, let's go to number 2. One of the biggest clues that you're getting from spirit, and not just imagining it, is when it's coming from your body or your awareness. Kind of sounds strange, but hold on and stay with me for a second. Because when you're imagining something, it often feels like it's kind of happening in the front of your mind, right? You're actively thinking, kind of right behind your forehead. Like you're mentally building something, an image, a picture, or kind of a scripting out a scene. It's centered and deliberate. You know you're generating it, but with spirit doesn't come from that part of your mind, right? It's not coming from the front of your head. It all drops in from somewhere else. From above, maybe, from behind, from deeper inside your head. Many sensitive describe it kind of like, well, I kind of felt like the thought wasn't mine, or it came in from behind my head, or I heard it, but I didn't know where it came from. It didn't sound like my thinking voice at all. I can remember one of my earliest validations sound like this. I was kind of walking around just thinking about dinner, actually, because I was getting really hungry, when suddenly all of a sudden a word just dropped in out of the blue. It felt totally unrelated, and it felt like it just kind of landed in the back of my awareness. Not really a thought, not an effort, just sort of a presence that popped in. And the second it came through, I knew that didn't come from me. That's not the way my imagination works. The imagination is kind of front forward, right? It uses your frontal lobe, your logic, your visual construction skills. But spirit bypasses all that. It speaks to your deeper self, the quiet observer. Not the planner, not the thinker, but the part of you that listens with your whole heart, your whole being. So the next time that something pops in, just pause. Notice where it comes from. If it didn't come from your thinking mind, the frontal lobe, it's probably coming from spirit. All right, let's go to number 3. Sometimes it's not what you hear or see, but it's actually kind of what you're feeling in your body, in your space, in your field. Spirit's not always loud, but its energy always moves something. Maybe you felt it, like a sudden warmth or a sudden cooling. Something on your shoulders, weightless calm flooding into your chest, or maybe just sort of a light tingling around your crown, or maybe your forehead. There's no breeze, but you're feeling something. There's no temperature, but there's a shift. There's an energetic shift. It all changes. It's just kind of like the atmosphere just shifts all by itself. It adjusts. You can't explain it, but your body knows it's going on. Your field knows something's changing. This is one of Spirit's most subtle signs. It's one of the most beautiful ones because Spirit is not forcing anything. It's not forcing its presence on you. It just kind of enters like light through a window, soft, expanding, undeniable. And if you're paying attention, you can catch it. I've had moments where the energy in the room suddenly felt full. You can't put words on it. It's as if someone had quietly walked in, even though I was totally alone. Or maybe I'd be sitting in meditation. And without warning, I'd get this very gentle pressure on the top of my head. Not painful, not even distracting, just present, right? And that presence would kind of stay with me. And I knew there was something there beyond my physical being. And imagination doesn't do that. It doesn't, move around, doesn't press anything. Your imagination doesn't actually go and touch you. But spirit, you feel it. It's not an imagination. It's not invented. It's felt. Spirit really is shifting your energy. So if you've ever felt that sudden calm, that quiet fullness in the room, that tingling at the top of your head, that's probably not your imagination. That's probably Spirit just entering in your space gently, just to let you know, hey, you're not alone. All right, let's go to number 4. Sometimes the sign is not a sound or a message. It's just more of sort of a physical feeling. It's more a presence that's in your room. Maybe you're alone in the room and then suddenly you're not alone. There's no shadow, but something's changed. You can feel like somebody's all of a sudden is there. It's like they've stepped into your personal boundary, your personal space. It's like an energetic feeling. You feel it on your back, maybe on your left, maybe on your right, but it's calm, it's silent, it's loving, and you know that somebody's there. You can't explain why. But there's something inside that you just know. The room suddenly feels different. Not heavier or colder, just occupied somehow. And I've had moments like this where I wasn't meditating, but I was just, wasn't even calling anybody in, just sitting there quietly, maybe having tea or journaling or writing or thinking. And then suddenly, boom, I felt them. It was like that presence. It was an unmistakable feeling, as if somebody had walked into the room, not with footsteps or sound, but kind of just with a presence. Now, imagination can recreate images. It can even simulate emotions, but it's not going to replicate that feeling of presence, of another soul entering your space, of something or someone, really, standing near, watching gently, loving you silently. That feeling, that's not coming from memory. It's coming from a connection with Spirit. Many people can describe it like, I could feel somebody come from behind me. It felt like someone was watching me, but not in a scary way, right? The room suddenly felt full, even though I was totally alone. Now, that's not fantasy. That's relationship. That's Spirit coming in. So if you've ever had that quiet moment where you just knew someone was with you and your heart felt seen, even in silence, that's not something that your imagination can create or put together, right? That's the presence of Spirit making itself known to you gently, personally, and profoundly. All right, let's go on to number 5. Sometimes Spirit doesn't arrive with a tingling sensation or a voice or even the feeling of somebody coming nearby. It sometimes arrives in a way that feels what it really feels like afterwards. You're going about your day maybe. You're not meditating, you're not seeking signs, but all of a sudden you feel lighter, calmer, more present, more you, right? No external trigger, no emotional storage, just sudden peace. It's like an inner shift that didn't come from thinking. It just kind of happened. And in that moment, your energy rises, not because you tried to do anything, but because something inside you is responding to a loving presence that's gently moving through your space. It's an energetic shifting that's affecting you, right? It's raising something. You didn't change your vibration on purpose, but it's really a feeling that you're feeling a higher frequency, and your energy naturally rose to it. All right, let's go to number 6. Now, I want to help you take a moment to really feel a difference between when Spirit's truly with you and when you're just having sort of a natural emotional reaction to something, maybe like music or memory. Because yes, both are going to give you chills. Both are going to move you, but here's how you can tell the two apart. When it's Spirit, it feels external, yet connected. It shows up unexpectedly. It leaves peace, calm, stillness. It includes a presence or a subtle knowing. It carries maybe clarity or sacredness. Now, when it's emotion or your imagination, it feels inside, internal, self-triggered. Kind of happens in sync with a trigger, right? It leaves an emotional charge or a fade out. Maybe it's tied to a story or a memory or imagination. It carries emotion, but it's not clarity. Because Spirit doesn't just stir your feelings, it settles into your soul, it settles into your emotions. It leaves you still at peace, expanded. And that's really how you know. So when peace rises out of nowhere, when joy kind of visits you without any cause, when your energy lifts and your heart softens, that's not your imagination. That's probably Spirit, just simply passing through. Let me ask you, have you ever had a thought that's come to you when it was just so loving, so wise, so unlike anything that normally you're thinking, kind of stopped you in your tracks and didn't feel like your voice didn't follow your train of thought, right? It definitely wasn't something that you made up. It just dropped in, whole, complete, calm, and part of you. And it kind of whispered, wow, I love you. And you couldn't have thought that your imagination's not coming up with that. So that's one of the Spirit's signatures, unexpected wisdom. It's not clever. It's not logical. It's not emotional. It's not coming out with charged ideas. It's just simple, profound truth that really feels like it's coming from above you or maybe through you. I can remember one time I was doubting something in my life. I was kind of stuck in my own spiral of overthinking. It happens to me all the time. But out of nowhere, this sentence appeared in my awareness, like, you're not failing. You're being rerouted. I hadn't thought anything like that because I was off in my, ego mind, right? I wasn't even trying to be spiritually open. And suddenly this thing just kind of landed. It felt like it's someone way wiser than I was that had just suddenly stepped into me and handed me a life raft, right? So that's wild. So number 7, let's look at that. Another way you can look at it is the surprise. It's kinder, it's deeper, and it's very different than your typical self-talk. It's unrelated to your normal thought. And it's something that is kind of like a tuning fork inside your chest. Imagination is going to come up with the ideas, but it's usually building on what you're already thinking. Spirit interrupts, not loudly, but very precisely. If you've ever received a truth that felt wiser than your own thoughts, one that kind of left you calmer, clearer, and somehow seen, that's probably not your imagination. Imagination doesn't do that. It was probably Spirit, kind of whispering something that you didn't even know that you needed. So you've just heard the 7 of the clearest ways to know that it's Spirit, not just your imagination. And maybe one or two of those signs really hit home. Maybe you felt that kind of unexpected peace, or that wise little voice that dropped in out of nowhere when you needed it most. But here's the thing. See, Spirit doesn't stop there, because some of the strongest signs, the ones that truly leave no doubt in your mind, those are the ones I haven't even shared yet. And in fact, there's one in particular that catches almost everybody off guard. It's not loud and it's not flashy, but it certainly proves without question that you've actually made real contact. And I'll tell you exactly what it is in part 2. So stay tuned for part 2, and that's titled How to Know It's Spirits, 8 more signs that you can't make up.